I know Andrea may have a question for you, but if you don't mind holding on, if you don't mind, we would like to put you on a brief hold, Sandi, while we go
That's
to
fine.
our other guests. Okay, thank you so much, Sandi. Eva, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt, but then I would just wanted to bring her in. So please go ahead and finish your um, statement or what you were talking about.
Oh, I was just talking about how what the section of the neighborhood was like when I first moved into Rogers Park, how how much crime there was, and how over time the community coming together to help solve some of the crime issues. Crime still exists up here, and it's probably the area that still has the most amount of crime in Rogers Park. But there are people who are willing to work and to go out and talk to people who live in the community and ask them the kinds of things that they would like to see in the neighborhood, and what they think would help to improve the community, not just in the area that I live in, but in all of Rogers Park. And that's what makes Rogers Park such a great community, is that the people are willing to band together and work together to make this a better community.
Thank you so much, Micheal. I again, so you also have lived in Rogers Park for a very long time.
Yes.
Tell us your experience with with that regards, and why anybody should try to move out there.
Well, I'll tell you, I grew up in Hyde Park on the far south side, on the south side of Chicago, and I've lived in about a dozen communities over the years. Moved to Lakeview. I've lived in Edgewater. I lived in Humboldt Park, Wicker Park, and Andersonville a bit, and finally in mid 90s moved to Rogers Park. Rogers Park right here, this is where I raised my kids, and it's a wonderful community. Everybody says the people. That's right. It's the people in the community. Of course, we have an abundance of parks, and we have an amazing lakefront. Being able to look at the lake, even if we can't swim right now because the beaches are closed because of COVID, we are right on the lakefront, and that is an amazing resource. But the people here, whether there is a problem or there's an opportunity, this is a neighborhood where organizations and individuals can stand up, take leadership, and come together to make something good happen, to either address a problem or to enhance some great opportunity. We have wonderful art, we have wonderful festivals, we have wonderful restaurants, we have community organizations, we have some good schools and people supporting them, and family together stuff. I just think it's a great place to raise kids, to enjoy, whether you've got kids or not. There's great array of people here. Rogers Park, besides it's black, white, and brown, of course, it's also a very diverse community with dozens of immigrants from dozens of nations speaking many languages here. It's an amazing community to experience, and I think it's fun, and it's exciting, and it's interesting, and it's inspiring to me.
Great. Thank you. I don't know if Andrea has a question. Please go ahead. If not, okay, go ahead, Andrea. Andrea, do you have a question?
Do you ever spend any time walking around? Yes, I want to ask to Micheal Harrington. In the neighborhood, do you know about what do they do for the youth in that neighborhood? Have you paid, see that or see where the youth are going in this community? Do you know?
Well,
there's some organizations, or if you don't know, yeah.
No, there are a few organizations doing good things, and I'd say, interestingly, we have a lot of churches in Rogers Park also, many of which have youth programs that are pretty cool. But the other thing that's important is our park district facilities, and I want to give lots of thumbs up to Eva McCann, who didn't really give herself enough credit for being the leader to create Willie White Park, our large, magnificent park facility and park land right on Howard. Eva led a team of people for a decade, mostly great women, raising funds and pushing that legislation through to make it happen. And Eva deserves tons of credit for that. But our park districts are a major resource. There's whether it's Potawatomi Park or Loyola Park or Willie White Park as well, and smaller parks, Passion Park, throughout the community, also have services for kids and have programs, and a lot of our organizations use the park facilities as a site to offer programs. I'm involved with a Just Harvest. I'm on that board, where we also do involve youth in growing and food, nutrition work, and also political and community spirit work, and things that stay involved. That's good for kids as well.
Thank you.
Can you tell us a little bit? I was going to ask if you could tell us a little bit more about a Just Harvest. I noticed as I walk around the neighborhood, there's some gardens there, and they also grow food too to feed the people. Can you say anything more about that?
A Just Harvest, our mission is to fight hunger, and we not only do it through a garden and raising food and taking food donations, and a daily, for the past nearly 30 years, dinner program at a Just Harvest for the homeless or any family in need, people who are hungry. We also not only providing food services, we also tackle and address these systemic issues that cause hunger. So these issues are in our community of housing. The issues are about education. The issues are about the injustices in parts of our society, racial and others. The issues are about helping people with income instability. So a Just Harvest works and tackles both of those. There's some really wonderful staff people and some amazing members of the community that serve on the board that work pretty hard all the time to provide services for youth and families in need in the community. That's like a summary of what a Just Harvest is.
Thank you so much. You'll still listen. This is the Progressive Mind Show. You are just heard from Micheal Harrington of Rogers Park. We are 15 minutes past 6 p.m. here in the city of Chicago. We want to take one short break. When we come back, we would continue with my great guest. I know Eva has a point to make. I know, Eva, I think I'm interested in you elaborating on your efforts in getting, is it the park, that Micheal mentioned? I really want you to get into how you had to make that happen. I think that's a very great achievement for yourself and for the community, and want to know about that. Stay tuned. We shall be right back. Welcome back to the show. My name is Senna, aka Alinko, and we come your way every Wednesday with the Progressive Mind Show from 6 to 8 p.m. I know we also have Sandi on the line. Very soon we shall be going to Sandi. We are open for business, okay? The pandemic did not affect us, okay? We did not have to close our business. So anytime you want to advertise your business or an event, or get the word out there regarding any project that you're on, we were more than happy to help you achieve that. Okay, so reach us at info.progressiveminds@gmail.com. info.progressiveminds@gmail.com. You can also ring 815-409-9123. The studio number to ring in to contribute or ask a question to the show is 815-277-5047. This program is also live on our YouTube page, which is The Progressive Mind Show. Eva, I posed a question earlier. Would you mind responding to that?
Yes. Willie White Park came into existence because there were just so many kids just hanging out in the streets, and so many latchkey kids that had no place to go when they got out of school other than home and to watch television and try and find things to entertain themselves. And so a group of community members, Sister Cecilia being one of them, who was the person who got me initially involved in the parks in the north of Howard area to begin with, we went out there and we started with the kids. we started asking the kids, what would you like to see in this neighborhood that would get you off of the streets? And the thing that they were saying is like, well, Kiwanis Park, which was a small park that was on Ashland, that had a very small field house that was literally big enough to put a pool table in and a couple of chairs, and that's about it. Even though they did some fantastic work, they had a park supervisor at the time, Jim Hobson, who did some great things with many of the kids, but the park was still too small to accommodate all of the kids in the neighborhood. And the thing that the kids said most is like, we would like to see a larger park. We would like a larger field house so that there's more for us to do. We don't necessarily want to be out in the streets. And so at that time, this started around 1993, 94, when we started asking the questions. And we then went to the alderman at the time and asked him, and he wasn't for a field house. So we said, but this is something that is desperately needed. And so we then kind of stepped over his head. We went to our state rep at the time. We went to our congresswoman. We went to our state senator, and we said, this is something that we need. Will you help us? And they all thought it was a great idea. And we took it from there, and we then got parents involved. We got the community organizations in the community, in the neighborhood involved. Organizations like Family Matters, the Howard Area Community Center, what was then called DevCorps, which is now the Rogers Park Business Alliance, and Starfish organization. And we brought in Foundation. And, we worked with them to try and build a team so that we could approach the Chicago Park District, approach the mayor, it was Mayor Daley at the time, to work to get this building built, the park expanded. After we got the park, and they said, oh, well, you can use the Gale School gym for your facility. It's like, no, Gale School closes at a certain time, and that would not allow programming for adults if adults need any kind of programming. And so we continued our fight. The park was completed in the year 2000. We had a playground build that brought 500 volunteers from around Rogers Park to build our first playground build in Rogers Park. It was amazing, the numbers of people that kept showing up and showing up and showing up, because they all knew that this was something that our community needed. And we got 40 restaurants to donate tons and tons of food, restaurants and businesses in the neighborhood to donate food for this playground build. And it's like, okay, we've expanded the park now. Now we still need a building. And we finally got the building built in 2008. It was completed. And then after that, a private organization came in and wanted to take it over, the Boys and Girls Club. And it's like, okay, the Boys and Girls Club is a great organization, but this building was built with the hard labor of the people in this community. It was funded by public funds, government funds, and we are not going to let a private organization come in here and take over this building. So that was yet another fight that we had on our hands in order to make sure that this building remained a public building and open to the people who live in Rogers Park and the city of Chicago. Because anyone can come to programs there. And we've got some great up until COVID-19 anyway, we had some great programming that went on there. And, our efforts don't stop there. We're working with, we in 2018, we got the first orchard, as I mentioned earlier, planted at Triangle Park. And we're trying to do some placemaking efforts in Triangle Park to have a small sculpture garden and have the community design a mosaic to go along the cemetery wall. So our efforts continue, and we are constantly working to improve the parks in the area.
Thank you. I think we still have Sandi online. Unless Andrea has a question, I wanted to go to Sandi. But if you do have a question for Sandi, Andrea, you can go for it.
Yes. I was going to ask Ava McCann just if she can briefly talk about Gale School. I think they got some participatory funds to build a garden over there. Do you know much about that?
I know a little bit about that. Yes, they did get some participatory funds to get the garden built, and you know, it was very exciting because actually that's the how we ended up with an orchard at Triangle Park was because participatory budgeting wanted to build a skateboarding park in Triangle Park, but they didn't ask any of the people who lived in the neighborhood. But anyway, the Gale Garden, Anthony's Garden, Anthony was one of the people who worked at a Just Harvest, and he worked with kids at the school doing gardening and so forth in the school lab. And he unfortunately died, and the school felt very strongly, you know, about his death, and they wanted to do something to honor him. And so they got together and decided to build the garden at Gale, and it's a wonderful garden. It's a beautiful garden. I'm sure you've been there.
Okay. Great. I know.
I walked over. I did. Thank you.
Michael, do you have? Do you want to contribute to comment on what Eva said earlier? So
I want to note. There's one more thing we should note about Willie White Park. It's named after a wonderful black woman, Willie White. She was, I believe, a runner, an athlete, and an Olympic star. And there's all kinds of tribute and beautiful reflections on her life and what she meant as a sports athlete and inspiring for kids. It's just everything comes together there.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, actually, Willie White had she was a 5-time Olympian, and her Olympic career spanned almost 30 years. So yes, she was fantastic from the 1950s to the 1970s. She was a very inspiring woman.
We pay attention to Black history up here.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I was going to say that.
Yes, we have to also mention that. We have to also mention that there's been. I found as I walked through the neighborhood, the Pollocks. You know, there's a house that was the first African American family that lived in Rogers Park. Did you know that? It's on Lunt, 1900 West Lunt. I walked over there and I took a picture of the house, and it has a little plaque that gives tribute to that family. They had a hard time in the community, but they were there. And also Chicago was our city, Rogers Park was the first community after, you know, it was a village at one point. It was our first community of all the 77 communities that we have. So that's a pretty good thing that we're the first.
No, that's very true. I remember you had sent me that picture of the. So that picture is supposed to be the first. That is the home that belongs to the first Black person that actually founded Rogers Park. Am I accurate?
No, that was the first Black family that lived in Rogers Park. I think it was kind of founded with Rogers. Rogers Park is named after a person named Rogers, and you know, Toohey. And who has the history? Do you know? Anybody here? Is Sandi there? Does she know?
I'm here. I know that Philip Rogers, but Rogers Park is named after Philip Rogers, but I don't know who the first African American or Black. I don't know who that would be.
Okay. Well, I was going to
go. You walk in the 1900s, not you.
Oh, okay. Look. Hey, Michael.
I am the first.
Look who's coming on board. Michael Glasser. Michael, we've been waiting for you.
Yeah. Okay. So, Michael, Michael just joined us, listeners. Michael, can you tell us who you are, what you represent? I mean, the organization you represent, and why you're here. Of course, I mean you know why, but our audience would like to know, the purpose of the conversation this evening. So if you don't mind.
Well, again, my name is Michael Glasser. I've like to say that I was born in Oak Park, or in the west side of Chicago, but I first moved up to Rogers Park in law school, and returned to Rogers Park throughout my adult life. Every time I experienced a midlife crisis, I seemed to want to move back here. So but I have from time to time left Rogers Park and tried out different parts of the city. I tried the Gold Coast. I tried the West Loop. Always returned because of Andrea Graham. You know, it's hard to live far from Andrea. But really, as much as that sounds tongue in cheek, I moved back because of the things that Andrea represents in Rogers Park, as well as the other fine guests on this panel. It's a very special place, and it's for many reasons. It's just a place that I've always feel comfortable and feel like I'm home, and I feel like I can make a little bit of a difference in people's lives. So I've been involved in the real estate world. I've owned buildings here. I've sold buildings here, but then decided to purchase years ago, and have been involved in several nonprofits in the community. Perhaps I'm best known locally for being president twice of the Rogers Park Builders Group, and but I've also gotten involved with Sullivan High School about 5 or 6, maybe 7 or 8. I don't even know how many years ago, but I've been involved in Sullivan High School, as well as the Northside Community Development Corporation, which works towards preserving home ownership and mortgage foreclosure relief for newer homeowners in the north side of Chicago, largely Rogers Park. So there you have it in a variety of ways. I'm love supporting Rogers Park restaurants. I always enjoy going to restaurants where I know the owner, and there have been some amazing restaurants and some amazing people that own these places. And especially now, we all need to go gangbusters, doing our best to support these local businesses who are already so well supported by the Rogers Park Business Alliance. So I think that's a long-winded answer to your question, isn't it?
Yeah, you you did well. I wanted to ask, so Rogers Park Builders Group is basically a real estate kind of organization based off what you just said, or would you want to distinguish what the organization stands for in your narrative?
Well, we formed in 1993 when Rogers Park was a far different place. There were many troubled buildings. In fact, things were so tough for those of us that owned apartment buildings in Rogers Park that there was a movement aloft to when we put our ads in the Tribune or the Reader or the Sun Times. Back then, we used to place classified ads in print journalism. Many people started advertising Loyola Park. Rogers Park was a bad name. It was hard to attract people to want to be up here back then. There were many instances of crime. There were certainly many instances of bad landlords, the likes that we don't see in this neighborhood today in any great. There's different issues today. Let's put it that way. Mm-hmm. But the turnaround I really felt was something that we helped contribute to, because we stood for responsible property ownership, responsible development, responsible investment, and giving back to the community. And so, we've been very active ever since 1993, and we've survived and endured and been relevant in different ways as the economic cycles have changed. The issues in 1993 are different in 2008. We're different at another, different today. It's we've evolved, but we've always been a presence in the neighborhood, and feel like we've been responsible. In fact, that's how I met Andrea, was through the builders group.
Oh, thank you. Thanks for giving us a good explanation with regards to that too. Michael, you went off. Okay, we still have Sandi on the line, is it?
Yes, I'm still here.
Okay, straight. So Sandi, you work, I mean, based off your experience, I mean, your within the time span, your time span with Rogers Park, can you, apart from your organization, your institution that helps with businesses in that neighborhood, what are some of the supporting institutions or organizations that play this type of role that your office play, and how effective have they been to the cause of Rogers Park's progress?
Organizations that do things differently than what we do. Is that what you're asking?
Yeah, like I'll say supporting organizations and institutions that help to progress the projects and whatnot in the in Rogers Park, apart from your organization, sure. the Rogers Park Business Alliance.
I think a lot of the different organizations work very well together. We
can you identify a few prominent ones?
Sure. The organization Mike was talking about, the Northside Community Resources, which used to be the Rogers Park Community Council. We work very well with them. They do a lot of work around affordable housing. They do landlord tenant training. They do access to capital assistance. So, you know, if we have a business who is looking for access to capital because their credit scores are low, you know, we would reach out to Northside Community Resources, and they could help our clients with becoming more bankable. The Howard Area Community Center is another amazing organization. They do just about everything you could possibly imagine, including workforce development, which is one of the areas where we work with them, because we have businesses that are always looking to hire people, and they have people that are looking for jobs. We at the Rogers Park Business Alliance actually just recently hired 3 referrals from the Howard Area Community Center Workforce Development Organization. Family Matters does after-school programming, and we work great with them. A Just Harvest, who does, they have a meal program. They serve meals 365 days a year to the community. You know, there are just so many amazing, great organizations in Rogers Park. And we worked with, Eva was talking earlier about the community garden, the Hello Howard Community Garden. It's run by the Peterson Garden Project, and we're the ones who brought them into Rogers Park and showed them this piece of land that they truthfully didn't want to put a garden in because it was bigger than any garden they've ever done. And we convinced them that we could, we had enough people in the community that would want to participate, and there are 218 plots in that garden, and they've never had a garden that big. The biggest one prior to that was 90 plots, and you know, they're all full every year. And it's just a really great, like I said earlier, great community, a lot of people who want to do a lot of stuff and work well together.
No, thank you. Thank you so much. We want to take just a few moments to acknowledge there's been a lot of comments on Facebook, and maybe some of these questions might be directed to some of our guests. Tommy says that, I'll put it up here. She says, wonderful Black queen. Yes, so great sports athlete, Miss White, Black history finest. Thanks at Michael Harrington. Well, that's thank you for. Well, whilst we are at Black history stuff, I think this is what Andrea and Michael was alluding to, with regards to, this is the first house, the first home, or the home that was owned by the first Black man that, first Black residents of Rogers Park. Andrea, is this correct?
That is correct.
Okay, Michael.
It's on Lunt about the 1900 block home.
Okay, Michael, does this look familiar to you?
I've never been there, but it looks like a nice place.
Actually, I have seen it, and I did know about that family, and I believe they moved into the neighborhood in like the late 1800s, early 1900s, sometime in that area. So I was aware of them. I have been told that the house is on Lunt. Let's put it like that. In the 1900 block. And I've passed by that house a million times. I just didn't realize that that was exactly the house, and I have seen it.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks for helping to explain that. Okay, let me see here. Well, let's go back to our comments. There are a ton of them, and let's see if there's a question here. Okay, that was a comment from Tommy, and Tommy says, "Thanks for being a voice to the voiceless and fighting for the public fund building and programs." Eva McCann, that was a comment for you, and she says, "Thank you, Andrea. This is for Okima Lewis." He says, "Thank you, Andrea Graham, for asking questions that impact us all. As a former student of NEIU CCICS campus, where you are a graduate student, urban community studies is an important field of study for one looking to be a vital part of the challenges facing families today. So glad you are part of the show, Progressive Minds." Thank you, Okima Lewis, for your comment. You put another comment on there. Thank you for that. And I think there's a bunch of comments here. I'm trying to see if there's a question that is directed to any of you here. Okay, so this is a comment. And I think there's another comment here. Okay, so Ope John is a good friend. He's also chiming in from Texas. Oben, thank you so much for always supporting the Progressive Maestro. Even though you were in Texas, you used to live in Chicago, and I'm sure you're concerned about things that are going on here. Kima says, "Great information on Focus to Feed the Hungry. My hat goes off to Michael Harrington and Eva McCann for her humble comments about the great resource she has been to Rogers Park families and youth." This from the comments that are coming in, you can tell Rogers Park is really a close-knitted community with very great people. Now, I also want to mention that the number to ring in for this show, if you want to contribute or ask a question, is 815-227-5047. Kimberly Jackson says, "We are diverse people." Thank you for your comment. I think there's a question from Tommy. She says, "Does health disparities and inequality gaps affect the access of COVID-19 testing?" I think this is a very, very great question. Anybody wants to jump on this?
Well, I know that I have seen various sites around the Rogers Park area where they have been providing free COVID-19 testing to residents. I know it was at Gale at some point. Maria Hadden had mentioned that it's going to be on Clark Street. I've seen it just in various different locations where they have been doing free COVID-19 testing. So they are trying to get to the people who are unable to go out and get the testing themselves. The testing is coming to them. So I've been very happy to see that happening here in the community.
Okay, thanks for that. I think we had a low technical issue here. We will sort it out. We'll sort it out. You all can still hear me though, right?
Yes.
Okay, great. So I think there's another question here. She says, "Are the high mortality and morbidity rates in your community more related to high disparity gaps in access to testing and good health quality of minorities, or people not following preventive guidelines of wearing PPE or access to PPE and testing?" Again, anybody wants to volunteer and respond to this question?
Well, go on.
All of the above issues. It's a nationally documented fact that people of color have experienced greater suffering due to the coronavirus, but also around Illinois and Chicago right now, we're concerned about people not wearing their masks and people congregating when they shouldn't be. And the rates that were going down are suddenly this week started going up. The rates of infection and the number of people dying. So it remains a concern. It's not just Rogers Park, it's a concern around the globe for everybody.
Right, and also there's a large number of nursing homes in the Rogers Park community, and as far as East Rogers Park, the numbers have not been as high as they have been in West Rogers Park from what I've been reading, and many of those much of the mortality rate has been coming from the nursing homes that were in West Rogers Park, from what I've been reading.
Okay. Well, we were trying to just sort our technical issues out, so it would be taken care of. Thank you so much for. Well, looks like we're back on. These things happen, so please pardon that little break in there. Jovan Leslie Monique is watching us. Thank you for chiming in, Jovan. Okay. So let's do this. Try and get myself here. Okay, great. You all can see me. Okay, so we have Sammy Murphy watching us. Maria, Sammy Murphy says Maria's, or Maria. Okay, that was when Maria was here. Rebecca says, "Great job, Captain." And well, I think we have another comment from Tommy. Tommy, thank you so much for being a good contributor to this show. Please share the feed if you're watching us on Facebook so we can get the word out. Today we are talking to the people from Rogers Park. Now, I did want to go to the panel again. Micheal, what would you say? Can you tell us about the political climate of Rogers Park? Are people involved? This year is another big, election season or election year. Do you think that people are typically involved in the political process? And what are you, being a very long resident in that community, doing to help mobilize people to understand the urgency of getting into politics or voting this year?
I think it's a very appropriate question for me and for Rogers Park to be on Progressive Minds show.
Thank you.
Ours is a very progressive community. Number one, we have extremely high involvement in local, state, Chicago state, and national politics. I most recently was working as the coordinator of the Bernie Sanders campaign here in Rogers Park. We have a tremendous involvement of volunteers in all levels of politics in our city. Our organization, Network 49, by the way, I should mention, was one of the ones leading the campaign to elect Maria Hadden as our new alderman. We endorsed her 100%. All of our members worked hard to support her. We also have, but in general, our neighbors in Rogers Park, people in this community pay strong and close attention to what's happening in city council. They pay attention to what the mayor is doing. They pay attention to what the governor is doing. Right now, we're very involved in supporting people who want to have a change in the state income tax, where we can have a graduated income tax system rather than the flat rate income tax. So that's a big campaign, and it's going to be on the ballot in November. So we have a lot of neighbors involved in these issues. We have neighbors involved in helping monitor and pay attention to the issue of police accountability. Mm-hmm. You name the issue, we've got people in our community that care about it and support our work on it.
Anybody wants to respond to this topic with regards to the enthusiasm when it comes to politics? I mean, and more specifically, the elections coming up this year. What are people saying about it? Is there any apathy when it comes to, especially the youth? And if so, I know Eva, you are being a community activist. Are you playing any particular role? If not, what are some of the organizations can you identify that are trying to, galvanize the people and then basically encourage them to participate in this space?
Well, in past years, I have been very active. This year, I have kind of stepped back, but I do know that there are quite a few people who are involved in the various different churches that are in the community that are definitely taking a strong stance and trying to make sure that people are getting out there and getting the vote and getting out there to vote. Like I said, this year I've been kind of taking a stance back because I'm actually doing some work on my house right now. But other than that, I would be out there, and I'm closer to the election. I'm sure I will be out there.
I was going to ask a question to Michael Glasser. I was going to ask Michael Glasser, since, we have to think about the ripple effects and the best practices in our community. And one of them is that your involvement with Sullivan High School extended past one thing you did for the school, and then it just like spiraled into other events and other things that helped, with the students, with the Thanksgiving. You did the kiln, you get the library and named you after your mom, and also the kitchen build. Can you share some of those things with us and the significance of that of the library with the audience?
Well, thank you for asking that question. I'm giving you a lot of credit here, Andrea. I know it's a show that you've helped organize, but you're deservedly entitled to this recognition. You are a consummate networker, and it's because of you that I was invited to some kind of Christmas function on the South Side about 9 years ago. And at that event, I met a teacher at Sullivan who works for students who are considered low incidence. At Sullivan had a big program for children with Down syndrome and who are autistic. And the gentleman was a teacher in a classroom, and he told me about the program. I said, well, what do you need? And he said, are you kidding me? What do I need? We want a life skills classroom for these children. We're stuck in a regular classroom with 4 walls and a desk, but these kids need activities, and we need a room where they can learn how to cook and how to make a bed and how to do the wash and learn how to live independently. And when I heard him describe his need, I thought, well, my God, the Rogers Park Builders Group has nothing but developers and landlords who do these kind of things. So I invited some of my colleagues to this gentleman's classroom. Immediately, everybody jumped aboard this beautiful program where we raised the money and converted this classroom into a state-of-the-art life skills classroom, which really transformed these kids' lives. And it was a very moving, wonderful initiative. That level of involvement got me excited about the school, got me excited about the principal of the school. One person can make a huge difference. And Principal Thomas, then he was known as Principal Adams, inspired such change and welcomed a group like the Rogers Park Builders Group. Later, I raised Friends of Sullivan so we could continue to offer support for the school. We helped in a number of ways. We restored musical instruments for a band, but in Rogers Park unique way, it wasn't just a marching band we helped provide instruments for. This was a band that was 1/3 the mainstream kids, 1/3 kids that were immigrants and refugees, and 1/3 kids from this low incidence program joining together. It was incredibly unique and special. So, through all that work and time, I learned a lot about the refugee program, and I'm sure the word diversity has already come up in this phone call, even when you're talking about, elections and the wealth of diversity in this community is really what's drawn me here. And Rogers Park has always been a community of refugees. You go back through the history, they might be from different parts of the world, but the refugee presence in Rogers Park has always been strong. It's always been a welcoming community. I remember many years ago when I met some of the lost boys from Sudan, remarkable young people with unbelievable stories. So Sullivan High School has been a place that's attracted refugees. Now it has special funding for the north side of Chicago. And so one of our initiatives last year was to create a welcoming center for the refugees. I was fortunate enough that some of the money raised allowed us to name the center after my mother, who passed away 30 years ago because she herself was a refugee. And the alumni from the school from 30, 40 years ago, also refugees, related to these kids and the remarkable, wonderful kids. And every year we have a Thanksgiving, refugee Thanksgiving, where the kids celebrate Thanksgiving for the first time. And so just a whole bunch of great stuff centered around Sullivan High School and in our other schools, our public schools that feed into Sullivan are also very special places. So that was another long-winded answer, Andrea.
That's beautiful. It's beautiful. And also, we're going to have to think about Juneteenth. When that happens next June, we're going to have to plan on that too. Let's see.
Is there?
Take it back to you, Senna.
Yeah, thank you so much, Andrea, for great. Great questions and wonderful discussion so far from our guest. Number to ring in if you have a question or an opinion. It's or comment to pass if you don't want to. If you know what, if you don't want to type it on Facebook, it's 815-227-5047. If you're watching on Facebook, please do us a favor by sharing so we can get the word of Rogers Park out there. We want the world to know how awesome Rogers Park is, how awesome the people are, and the opportunities that are there. It's a great neighborhood to move into, to have family, raise family actually. So, and also if you're looking for a career, there are a ton of jobs there. So to help us by sharing the feed, you can also watch us on YouTube as we speak. It's 29 minutes past 7 p.m. You're still watching and listening to the Progressive Mind Show live on Facebook. And we are talking to Eva McCann, Andrea Graham, Michael Harrington, Michael Glazer, and we have Sandi Price, who's on the line with us. You can see her face. Earlier in the show, the Alderwoman of 49th Ward, Maria Hadden, was here, and she gave us her perspective on the pandemic so far, how it has affected her community and how they've been handling it. And to you, my audience, thank you so much for your questions. We do have a call coming in. Let's see if we can. Okay, so let's see if we can pick up this call. Caller, can you tell us your name and where you're calling from?
Yeah, hi. My name is Jay. I haven't been listening from the beginning, so forgive me if I ask a question that's probably being addressed already.
Okay.
But I do realize that you guys are focused on a particular county, which is within an area that is currently very nationally controversial. Do you guys, amongst yourselves, have a solution or a suggestion as to how to bring down crime in these areas? Not necessarily within just a county, but maybe statewide.
Great question, and this is from Jay. Jay asked a very great question. Does anybody want to pick up on his question? He wants to know if what can be done with regards to combating crime in Rogers Park, and not just Rogers Park, but I think city, state, county, city is where we have most crime issues. So anybody wants to respond to that?
I would like to address that. One of the things that I know I worked with community on is making a lot of positive activities, like making sure blocks have block clubs so neighbors get to know each other, having little coffee clutches outside, or selling lemonade to community, and creating gatherings. Because if there are people outside doing positive things, guess what? The negative things are not going to be in that place doing it. So the people who want to do something positive go and invade the space where the people who are doing the negative things are taking place. It used to be called positive loitering. I don't know what it's being called these days, but we used to go out and have picnics in the parks and have block clubs and do community walks and things of that sort. And if the more the people who are out there doing negative things see that there are people out there doing positive things, then they're going to leave the area, because they don't want to be watched. They don't want to be seen. And I know that that's one of the things that has worked in the not just in my area, but in Rogers Park in general, people going out doing positive things and making sure that things are happening, doing concerts in the park, having local bands, the high school bands, bring the high school bands out to come and perform. There are kids who have little garage bands and have them come out and do a performance on a corner or something, and let the people, you know, the community gather and listen to them, give them some positive reinforcement as well. But the more positive things that are happening within a community, that means there's less negative things happening.
Okay. No, great point. Good point. So we need to invest more in positive things. I think Michael wants to respond. Michael.
Yes, I would certainly underscore the importance of the social, community, cultural, the texture that we as people living in a community add to helping make sure that crime is not the number one issue on our plate. But we also need to pay attention to another tangent, is that poverty produces crime, and education is one important solution that's why our organization, Network 49, is keen about supporting public schools, giving schools all the resources they need to help children so that they can get jobs and so that they can be educated and become participating citizens in our culture rather than problems. So I'd say tackling poverty, joblessness, education support are big issues related to crime, not just in our community, but anywhere in the world. That's unfortunately, these issues are neglected too much. Poverty continues, and we need to have more work done to fight it. We need more work done to support education. We can support the military with billions and billions and billions, and we end up neglecting the fact that people need jobs, people need good schools to prepare them to be contributing to society rather than problems.
Thank you. That's a great response. So, so he also wanted to know what can be done, not just say community-wise, but on a larger scale, maybe city-wise. I mean, what are some of the policies that we would want to, I would say, support, or some of the policies that we want to push forward that can help mitigate, or curb some of the crime and violence issues that Chicago has been facing for a long time. I don't know if Michael wants to. No, I was. Yeah, there are two Michaels. I know Michael Glazer. I don't know if you have any thing to say to that. In city-wise, what can we do to help curb or mitigate what Chicago has been going through with regards to crime and gun violence? Per the caller's question.
We could talk about the macro level and talk about big dollar programs that come from the city, or we could answer the question by talking about individual efforts that people can make to make a small difference in people's lives.
Right.
My answer goes to the small acts of kindness and small acts of interaction. Is as proud as we are of the diversity in Rogers Park, oftentimes we have completely different types of people that might cohabitate the same general area, but rarely interact with each other. So, I think bridge building is important. Times when people that look like me and come from backgrounds like mine have a chance to interact and learn from people with completely different experiences in a different part of the neighborhood, where we learn from each other and show and do respectful acts and show respect and help each other out. I've been involved in a few activities like that, and it's enormously satisfying and works for everybody. There was one time when I was introduced to a young man who wanted to teach. He and his brother wanted to teach kids at Willie B. White how to dance, how to do the Chicago step. And I happen to have known people at Family Matters, which is a wonderful organization. And when I heard the idea, I just very naturally said, I believe in what you're doing. And I got to know this kid well, and a year or two later, I still know the young man, it's like 9 years later, but a year or two afterwards, he said to me, or no, I think he said to somebody else, he was being interviewed, he said, when somebody, a guy who was a complete stranger to him said, I believe in you, he said that was the most remarkable thing he ever heard. He never heard anything like that, somebody believing in him.
Mm.
So I really think at the root, at the core of trying to address some of these very challenging problems, yes, there's a need for money and resources, but there has to be a will and a spirit to take advantage of our diversity, to promote relationships between folks from different backgrounds, and we all benefit as a result.
What are some of the?
I would like to add,
Go ahead, Andrea.
I would like to add to it.
Yeah,
I would like to add about the my professor, Lance Williams. He's a expert on gangs, and he was telling us that it also some policies that the city has created that caused housing to be dismantled. The public housing was dismantled. The schools were closed down. 50 schools in communities where people have to who had, they lived in their own neighborhoods, but then when they have to travel to other communities to get to school, that was a problem. They were then now not able to go back to school because they were, you're crossing territories that weren't safe for them. So, sometimes policy can contribute to the problems that we have now, and now we have to have community organizations to kind of undo those policy decisions that were made.
Mm. Now, quickly, what are some of the most successful businesses and schools that we can, pick point when it comes to Rogers Park?
Oh gosh, we've got some great organizations in Rogers Park, especially organizations with kids. Micheal has mentioned Family Matters. There's Starfish organization, there's Circles and Ciphers, there's Howard Area Community Center, which works with kids from preschool all the way into their teens and early 20s. There are the Chicago Park districts that Micheal Harrington had mentioned earlier that have different programs going on. There are just so many wonderful programs that exist here in the city in the Rogers Park community, and we need more of those kinds of organizations, not just in Rogers Park, but all over the city, all over the county, to help some of these young people grow into positive human beings. And as Michael Glasser said, we also need people who are willing, who are not afraid to go and approach a person and say, hey, what would you like to see? What would you like to do? Just befriend them. Befriend them. Because even, with a lot of the activities that I know I've worked on in the past in the community, it's like, it's not just a matter of trying to chase people away. It's also trying to bring them in and get them to join so that they too are not, being ostracized.
Great point. Thank you so much, Eva, for coming up with that. Excellent.
Okay.
Michael, go ahead, Graham.
I'd like to ask a question.
Yeah.
Sandi, let's cut to Sandi Price. Sandi, before I know that they were doing some work, they were doing some changes with Clark Street. Is that still in effect? Are they still doing the analysis of Clark Street and want to see a revitalization of the community in Rogers Park on Clark Street? Do you have any more things to say about that? Sandi still there?
Okay. We may have, she probably may have stepped away for a little bit. Hopefully we can.
Yeah, sorry, I'm here.
Yeah, do you know anything?
I didn't hear the question because I was on hold.
Yeah, she's back.
On hold. What was the question?
Yes, I'm sorry. I was talking. about Clark Street. You know, they had you was planning on a revitalization of Clark Street at one point and doing a survey of Clark Street. Is that on hold, or is that something that, you know, is it COVID is in the way of that progress, or it's on hold? I don't know. I'm asking you.
No, so actually we had a community meeting, our first community meeting was just last night. We've been working on this since
Sandi,
the plan was released in 2017.
Sandi,
and we've been,
Sandi, you can hear me. I think you're muffling a little bit. Is your phone close to you?
It is.
Okay.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I think it's a little. Yeah.
Yeah. So we've been working on this project for several years now, and actually we had our first community meeting last night for improvements to the intersection at Clark and Devon, and that should start happening. Construction should start happening in 2022. We're also doing bump outs in front of the Chicago Math and Science Academy, which is a school where it's a pretty high traffic area. So we're going to do pedestrian bump outs. Those should be installed in August. We should be getting additional bump outs by the Rogers Park Library, which will be after the ones on Chase. So the project is definitely moving forward. We have a lot to do. There's a lot in the plan, and it's working. It's happening slowly, but it is still happening.
Right. Thank you. What is the number one challenge of Rogers Park? One thing that all of you, I mean, maybe it might differ with, you, but I'll start with Micheal. What would you say is the number one thing or the number one challenge of Rogers Park that you would want to see change, or something that you want to change if you had the power?
Well, Michael Harrington, I would say the biggest challenge our community is facing, which a lot of communities across the city are facing, is the rising cost of housing. And what we need to think about our solutions that include more support for affordable housing development. We need more units available because the laws of supply and demand mean that everybody's rent is going to increase. The costs of maintaining a private home continue to increase. Taxes continue to go up. But some of the solutions have got to be creating more places for people to live. So that means more affordable housing development, looking at including addressing the issues facing homeless people. We have many closed storefronts and malls be converted to housing for people in desperate need. I'd say that's a citywide issue. Among many issues, public education funding is critical in every community, but right now I think the clear and present issue on the top of my mind in Rogers Park is the cost of housing.
Cost of housing. Let's see here. Michael's on top. Okay, we'll go to Michael Glazer, and then we'll go to Eva. Sorry. Michael, what would you say would be the number one challenge for you, if not personally, but I would say the number one challenge that you have observed with regards to Rogers Park? One thing that you are urgently not dying, but looking forward to change if you had the power.
Well, I don't know the statistics, and it all relates to the issue of housing. But we've lost a lot of children. Our schools are in need of more bodies, more kids to populate the classrooms. Many kids who are in Rogers Park leave Rogers Park when it comes time for them to go to high school, or when there's an opportunity for them to take a bus and go elsewhere, which is a incredibly tragic circumstance because we've got wonderful schools here, very passionate teachers and principals and some facilities that have had reinvestments and so there's many problems, many issues. But I'd like to come back to the day when where people adopted and embraced community schools, and didn't have to take buses to go out of the community because there's no need for that. Kids who do grow up here can get a phenomenal education, and so if there's one area that I think I'd like to see some change, it would be in attracting families, and especially all families, but I particularly would love to see the refugee families and the immigrants stay here. Yes, affordable housing is something that there is absolutely, Michael Harrington's right, a need for more housing, and safe, secure, and clean housing is important. And it is largely a supply and demand issue. It's very costly and cumbersome to build new housing. To build affordable housing is a super big challenge. Many different ideas of how to accomplish that. Of course, everything involves and requires money to do it. But so one thing is related to the other. They have the housing and have the jobs, and the families come and they populate the schools, and the businesses get supported, and the businesses can hire. It's really a very connected group of a host of opportunities that are generated if we can address these problems.
Excellent.
I agree.
We come back. We will go to Andrea and Eva, Eva and Sandi to have their take on the question on the floor. Just go and take a quick short break. This is the Progressive Mind Show you're watching. My name is Sena aka Alinko. It's 7:49 p.m. Central Time. It's almost 7:50. We only have about 10 minutes to wrap up. So far, it has been an excellent conversation, and we shall be right back. Stay tuned. Welcome back to the Progressive Mind Show. We are open for business, so just make sure that if you want to sell your business, your events, whatever it is that you want to promote, reach out to us at 815-409-9123. You can also send us an email via info.progressiveminds@gmail.com. info.progressiveminds@gmail.com. You can reach us on Facebook, Progressive Mind Show. Send us a message. We'll respond to it. Our website is also available. We're just upgrading the website. If you look up the progressivemindshow.com, it should be up. If not, it should be ready by sometime next week. We're just doing a little upgrade to it. Well, we would continue the discussion on focus on community. This is a special segment that we dedicate to our community. Dedicate to our communities, and we hope that by having these conversations, we can improve on what we all want for our neighborhoods. And so there's a comment that I wanted to show you guys, but looks like I wanted to copy and display it, but it's not working. So I'm just going to try and read it. It says that, see if I can read it from here. It's not showing your screen, but it's a comment that was sent to us by one of our audience. He says, I'm watching you guys from DC. I would like to say the fact that you guys have come together to discuss the community and how to make it better alone is a big plus. We need more conversations like this all across the country, especially in these times. And this is coming from Mr. J. Thank you so much all the way from DC. Thank you so much for your contribution. Now, Andrea, I posed a question earlier. Would you mind responding quickly since we only have about 8 minutes to go? Maybe respond quickly. Eva will return and
yes.
then go ahead, please.
Okay. What I would like to see change, well, not necessarily change, but when I was in Panama City, Panama, I went to a friend of mine, Sandi. Cindy told me about a place called Makerspace. So I saw it and my eyes blew up, and I said, "This is really a beautiful thing. I wish we had it here in our city." And we do have some here, but it's not in our community exactly. but it's a makerspace so that the youth can, or people can go in and create things and come out with a finished product, because we want the youth to not only just be, consumers, but they should also be producers. So that's what I would love to see change, or something, not necessarily change, but come to our community or come closer to our community so we can have access to those things, those type of activities.
Thank you.
That's what I'm trying to do at Triangle Park.
Yeah.
Are you trying to do that? Like,
yes, do some placemaking with in the community, with the mosaic along the cemetery wall and designing different artwork and things for Triangle Park. Yes. However, to answer your question, one of the things that I would love to see change, and I know it's not something that's going to change anytime soon, is to have less of a concentration of affordable housing all in one area, because that is what creates so much crime in any one particular area. For example, at one time, back in the 70s, they were just pushing all of the affordable housing, what was known as low-income housing back then, to the north of Howard area. It needs to be dispersed and integrated into the rest of the community, so that there are not these large concentrations of all of this housing together, because it just creates another ghetto. And that's not what communities need. Communities need to be integrated in with people need to be integrated in with each other, so that they can learn from each other and get to know each other, and not all be in the same area, all concentrated the way it is up here. And that's also what has created many of the empty storefronts, I believe, along Howard Street, because businesses are afraid to open up on Howard Street because of the people that hang out there all the time.
What can be done with regards to that? What can we do to curb that Howard area situation that you just mentioned? I know we have a few minutes to go, but briefly, I mean, does anybody want to contribute to because that's the situation with Howard has been lurking for a long time. How can we resolve it? How can it be resolved to enhance the attractiveness of Rogers Park?
Good question. Like I said, we have this high concentration of all these social service agencies, which, I mean, the social service agencies are needed, yes. And the affordable housing is needed, yes, but it shouldn't all be in one area where people are choking themselves, because it's like creating another Cabrini Green. And that is not healthy.
Okay. No, thank you.
I think a willingness by people to keep the dollars that they spend in the community. That we have dynamic communities around us, Andersonville, Evanston, and there's an outflow of dollars that sometimes supports the businesses in those two communities. And Rogers Park on its own has some amazing businesses, and folks who live here need to keep ought to consider keeping their money and supporting local businesses, including Howard Street. And by the way, Howard Street is, in my opinion, and I go there quite often, a much improved place than what it was years ago.
It is, but it still has a long, long way to go.
Absolutely. And but to the extent that there are businesses that are there, nothing will attract new businesses faster than successful existing businesses. And a very courageous young woman opened up a coffee shop, and I couldn't believe that she was going to put a coffee shop on Howard Street back I think she just celebrated her fifth?
They're celebrating six years now, I think.
Yeah. And it was, she had the courage as an urban pioneer to do that, and her success led to the success of and the willingness of others to open up comparable type of businesses. Now there's a theater next door to her. There's a hair salon that just opened. It's a wonderful hair salon. That kind of momentum can happen if we're supporting the existing businesses. And of course, those businesses have to step up and deliver a fine quality service that causes us to want to return. Everything is infinitely more challenging today, and which even to the extent that we can do business with these merchants, we need to step up and do it.
So I think Sandi has now responded. If do you want to respond to this real quick, Sandi? Okay. If we can hear from her, there's a question here that.
Sure. I'm sorry. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
So I would say I agree with everything that everybody has just said. And I think that one of the ways that we could get there, I agree, we need more density, we need more people, we need them to spend money in the local businesses, everything, more art, more, youth programs. I think one of the issues with what's happening on Howard Street is the perception of the crime there. Crime in Rogers Park is not high, but for some reason, people seem to think that it is. And I think that's one of our biggest issues. That's the one thing that I would like to change.
Okay, great. Now that begs this question, that begs the response to this question. Don't you all think? She says a couple years ago it was, and now it is not. So maybe since you last ended, Sandi, do you want to respond? Well, sorry, you can't see this question. My bad. I was assuming you can see the question, but there's a question on the floor. There's a question from one of our audience. Her name is Dr. Portia Claudio Mascacchio. She says there is crime in the majority of our communities. However, I remember that a couple of years ago, crime in Rogers Park spiked. What is the status today compared to then?
Oh, it's much lower today. I would say that I think that Rogers Park, last I checked, and maybe it's been several months, Rogers Park was the third safest community of the 77 communities in the city of Chicago.
Okay, you said Rogers Park is the safest community, you said?
The third, it was listed as the third safest.
Oh, wow. That's great. Does anybody know the first and the second? Maybe I'd like to move to the first or the second.
I don't. Based on crime statistics.
Okay. Well,
we have 77 communities.
Okay, thank you. There's another question here. Our time is up, but maybe we might want to respond to this questions real quick. She says, question for the panelists or the guests. What are the plans individually or collectively from this group to address the upcoming issues such as COVID-19, homeschooling, online classes, etc., that would impact the home improvement and education of the youth and the schools in Rogers Park, both elementary and high school? For Eva McCann, can you advocate, or will you be advocating for the field house to be an acceptable location for perhaps volunteer? I think the rest of the question statement did not come in, but anybody wants to respond to this, or would Eva want to take on this specifically?
I'll respond to it.
Okay, go ahead.
I think around the nation, mayors in major cities around the nation are realizing that it makes no sense. In fact, it's dangerous to be talking about reopening schools in September. We need to invest at a national level billions of dollars to make sure that homeschooling happens, that students have access to technology, laptops, internet access needs to be paid for. We can't have this catch and catch can. Is Comcast or that provider providing or not? How much does it cost? We need to take total control to get internet connectivity to every home with a child. Every home needs to have computers. We need to forget about trying to go to school because the COVID virus is continuing right now. It's going to continue into the fall. We don't need more people getting sick. We need a plan of action. Right now, in the city of Chicago, right now, the mayor has not decided what to do. Other cities, all of Los Angeles, has decided homeschooling, not going to open schools in the fall. Other major cities have done that as well.
And I would have to piggyback on what Micheal has said. I do not think it is time yet to open up any of the park districts to allow any major programming going on there. They're open now for the use of bathrooms only and for people who need to come in for protection from the heat, and I'm sure when the cold gets here for protection from the cold. But other than that, until there is a vaccine or several different vaccines to accommodate or to fight the different strains of the COVID-19 virus, I do not feel safe in having the park districts open up for kids and families at this time.
Totally agree. Totally agree.
Okay. So
Same
the
here.
comment from Tommy, she says, keep the dollars we spend in our community and support our great local businesses at Micheal Glazer. Thank you for your comment, Tommy. Well, all too soon, our time is up. It's 4 minutes past 8 p.m. and we have to wrap up. Okima says, thank you. Let's put up Okima here. She says, thank you. These responses are important to those listening and those who may not see the live show and view it later. Okay, yes, the live show.
Thank you.
This show can be viewed again on YouTube. If you missed it, just go to the Progressive Minds page on YouTube.
Thank you.
Watch it again, or Facebook. Facebook page is the Progressive Minds page. Last question, and we're not going to take no more questions. If you all have to rate the community of Rogers Park on a scale of 1 to 5, 1 being the lowest, 5 being the highest. I'll start from Sandi. What would you rate Rogers Park?
The community as a whole is a 5, without a doubt.
Excellent. Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Micheal Glazer.
Well, I'll say 15. It's a wonderful community. If I could just say one thing real quick, though.
Yeah, but
yeah.
Did you rate the community on a scale of 1 to 5?
Yeah, I said a 15 out of 1 to 5. You're the best.
Okay. Go ahead.
I just, Rogers Park lost one of our true heroes last weekend. A gentleman who worked for Family Matters for many years, really represented what Rogers Park is about. He's a mentor to so many young men. His name was Dan McCann, and we lost him to the COVID crisis. And I just like to express the shock and the sense of loss for us having lost such a wonderful man who was so committed to Rogers Park, and just wanted to acknowledge him tonight.
Wow, great. Anybody else wants to do that? Because this is a great, this is an important time. And so we would want to give everybody the opportunity to acknowledge anybody who may have lost their life as a result of COVID-19.
I have to admit, I am shocked. I saw Dan 2 weeks ago on, oh my God.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
He was a dear friend. He was a dear friend.
Yeah. I'm sorry to have done it publicly. I didn't know you guys didn't know, but
I did not.
No, he's a beautiful.
No, we didn't. But now he used to be drummer. He was a drummer for the youth. I just saw him too, and not long ago. I saw him in the store and we talked, and I gave him a lift and dropped him home. I mean, so I'm sad that this has happened with a great leader in our community who loved the youth and wanted them to be business owners. That was Dan McCann.
Yes.
You have to have a moment of silence for him. He was just the greatest.
May his soul rest in peace. Well, on that side note, we would want to bring the show to an end on this episode of Focus on the Community. We wouldn't do that by giving you all the last words. I know I asked the last question, but I also want to give the opportunity to say your last words before we close up. So 30 seconds each. We'll start from the right. Micheal Harrington, please go ahead.
Thank you very much. I think this is important. I encourage much more communication about communities. This is a good thing to do. I've 7 or 8 communities in Chicago in my life, and I'm with Micheal Glazer. We rank on a scale of 1 to 5, I give us a 20.
Great, great. Well, on that note, Michael, your last words, please. Michael, please.
I think I've said, yeah, if it was, you asked me, I just give it 25. How's that?
Okay. Okay. Eva, your last words, please. Eva.
Rogers Park is fantastic, and I'm there with Michael Harrington and Mike Glasser. As far as it definitely deserves way more than 5.
Brilliant. Okay. Well, so I know you work with you are a community activist. Now, is there any way? Now, again, let me just give you all the opportunity, and Andrea, I'll come to you. With regards to the organizations you all represent, would you want anybody to contact you? Do you want people to reach out to you? You want to share your information so people can get to know what you do? Anybody wants to do that real quick?
Sure. If anyone is interested in getting involved in any of the parks, I can give you information about Loyola Park. So can Mike Glasser, because I know he's involved with Loyola Park as well. Definitely Willie White Park, the Triangle Park Orchard. We need volunteers. We will be needing volunteers. Right now, we are not doing the workshops because of COVID-19 on how to maintain the fruit trees, but we do have 32 fruit trees, apple, cherry, pear, and plum trees at Triangle Park Orchard. If anyone wants to learn how to maintain them, the fruit is free for anyone who wants to come and pick it. And we also work with the Harold Washington Tot Lot here in the north of Howard area, Willie White Park, Triangle Park Community Orchard, and there's Potawatomi Park. I can put you in contact with the person at Potawatomi Park as well, and you know, give you connections to some of the other parks, Toohey Park.
Okay, so what's the contact? Email?
Oh, my email is EVAMCCANN1228@gmail.com.
Any website, social media handles? No?
They can go to the Willie White Park, williebwhitepark.org.
Okay. All right. Anybody else wants to share any information out there to the public?
Sure, I could do that.
Michael.
My email address is michaelharrington123@gmail.com. MichaelHarrington123@gmail.com, and check out our website at network49.net.
Okay, great. Now, that said, Andrea, you're having a great special co-host today and a panel as well. Please give us your last words.
My last words is that the next video that I want to produce with the Youth Center would be about reparations. That'll be the next one. And then we're going to come back to our community again in the future to talk about the historical aspects of our community, because we have great history here and we don't, talk about that much. And I don't want it to become obscure, and I don't want it to become like a blur. So we're going to keep that in mind. And I really thank everyone who joined today, all the guests, and the community that watched. I appreciate everything. I love this community. I've been here 35 years. I have not left. I live here. I have in this community, so I appreciate it. And I want to say thank you to the principal of Sullivan High School, who gave me room to expand and do things, and also Dr. Suni Ali, my professor at NEIU, Urban Community Studies, who suggested that I even do this assignment. Okay. So I'm glad that we all are here to participate. I thank you.
Thank you.
And you too, Sandi.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate you. And I apologize for going past spending 12 more minutes of your time. We promised 2 hours of the session, but that's how it goes sometimes. Once you engage in the community, the conversation gets exciting because we are very passionate about our neighborhood. So we are very grateful. You're my guest, Eva McCann, Andrea Graham, Michael Glazer, Michael Harrington, for coming on the show to making this happen. We are looking forward to working with you in the future. All right.
Thank you.
Excellent. And to our great audience, joining us from Okimi Lewis, Royal Black Jesus, Tommy O'Day, Demokun, Johnny Woods, and a whole bunch of folks that joined us that I'm probably not seeing right now because sometimes that happens. It's 30 minutes past 8 p.m. You have been listening and watching the Progressive Mind Show. This is where we build our community conversation by conversation, and we will be coming your way again next week, Wednesday, 6 to 8 p.m. Remember, to whom much is given, much is required. Being your host, Alinko. Bye-bye. Good night, guys.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Good night.
Good night.
Okay.